What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Nate Show. And in this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use different ratios to analyze a stock. So the four ratios I'm going to be teaching to you guys in this video is the PE ratio, the PB ratio, the PFCF ratio, and then the PS ratio. So the PE ratio is also known as the price to earnings. So these are all abbreviations for them. The price to book for the PB, then there's the price to free cash flow, and then there's the price to sales. So those are the four that I use. There are so many other ratios you could be using. You may even be able to create your own ratios, but I think that these four ratios are very useful. So you want to make sure that you're using many ratios. If you're only using one, it may not be as accurate. So how to calculate these ratios? The PE ratio calculated by the share price divided by EPS, earnings per share. So this ratio is always going to be moving because the share price, of course, during the work week or the market days, it's always going to be moving, and the EPS is always moving as well. So you want to make sure that every day you're changing that, wherever you're keeping that. If you're keeping that on a piece of paper or Google Doc, you're making sure that the stocks you're tracking their PE ratios. You're making sure that you're updating them every day. So the PB ratio is the share price divided by book value. So this one is going to be moving a lot too, because of course the share price is going to be moving a lot. The book value doesn't usually move a lot, but it can still be moving. So you want to make sure you're updating this one a lot too. Now these two ratios don't move as much, but you always want to make sure, you always want to check. It really doesn't take much time. So that's market cap divided by annual free cash flow. That's how you would determine the PFCF ratio, the price to free cash flow. The PS ratio can either be determined by market cap divided by annual revenue or market cap divided by annual sales. I always use the annual revenue, and I recommend that to you guys too. So I hope that you guys use the annual revenue, because the annual sales is really not as useful. And of course, these ratios are a little bit harder to get than these. So you may have to you either may not be able to use these two, or you may be your information may be based off something that's incorrect. So you want to make sure you're checking it. Of course, companies can be lying about their revenue, so this one could also be fake. Obviously, the market cap is pretty accurate. You can do that yourself. Just look up the outstanding shares, and of course, the share price you can look up. That's the market cap. Annual free cash flow, that can also be lied about, but that one's a little bit more accurate than this one. Now, another question would be, how do you use these ratios to actually analyze the stock? Because I already explained what they are and how to calculate them, but how do you actually use them? So how do you use these ratios? So you're going to want to be comparing them to peers in the same sector. So for example, if you're looking at Carnival Cruise Line, that's one that I'm actually looking at right now. I just invested in it. But that's not the point here. What I'm trying to say is Carnival Cruise Line, you'd want to compare that to Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian. And it depends. Like, since the cruise lines are just now opening up, maybe in the next month, you're going to want to compare it to Royal Norwegian. And you may even want to use a hedge, such as buying shares of all of these. So that would be a hedge, but that's how you would use the ratio. So you try to get as many ratios as possible from each of these companies, and then what you're going to want to do is compare them and see. Well, let's see. Royal Caribbean tends to have higher ratios than both of these. So since it's a 2-to-1, you may say, well, Royal Caribbean is overvalued, and these two, Norwegian and Carnival, are undervalued. Now, how do you determine which sector it is? So if you're just looking at the cruise lines, you'd only compare it to these two. But if you're looking at vacation in general, you would be looking at Airbnb. So this would be vacation in general, Hilton, Hyatt, and another one that's good is Marriott. So if you're looking at vacation in general, you would want to take all 7 of these. So you have Carnival, Royal, Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, Airbnb, Norwegian. So you have all of these companies. You have 7 of them. You try and get all the ratios, and you compare. You see, well, Hilton has a higher ratio than all of these, so in that case, or higher ratios, in that case, I think that it's overvalued. So then you would consider buying the other ones that you think are undervalued. Thank you guys for watching the video, and make sure you put a like up, smash that sub button, turn on notifications, and keep watching The Nate Show when you want to learn how to trade.